Welcome to Fresh Ground Theology's The Weekend Cup. Order yourself a fresh cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and join us as we explore some of the most fascinating saints and figures from church history. Last episode, we explored the early life of Saint Boniface and the worldview that shaped his mission. Today, we come to the most famous event associated with Boniface, the cutting down of Thor's oak. To modern ears, this story sounds almost mythological. But for Boniface and the people around him, this confrontation was terrifyingly real. The Germanic tribes of Europe lived within a deeply spiritual worldview. Forests, sacred groves, idols, ritual sites believed to be connected to divine powers. The gods were not viewed as fictional literary characters. They were understood as real beings who exercised authority over people and territories. Boniface believed something similar, though with a radically different interpretation. He did not believe pagan gods were equal rivals to the God of Israel. He believed they were rebellious spiritual powers deceiving the nations and drawing humanity away from the Creator. So when Boniface entered pagan territory, he believed he was entering contested ground. One of the most sacred sites in the region near Geismar was a massive oak associated with Thor or Donar, the thunder god revered among Germanic peoples. This oak was not merely a tree, it represented spiritual authority. The local people believed the site was protected. To violate it invited divine judgment. Fear surrounded it, and Boniface intentionally challenged it. According to historical tradition, Boniface publicly announced his intention to cut the tree down. Imagine the atmosphere surrounding that moment. The gathering crowd expected disaster. If Thor truly ruled there, Boniface would surely die. But Boniface began chopping. The accounts vary slightly in detail, but the essential point remains the same. The oak fell, and Boniface survived. That mattered enormously. In the minds of many witnesses, this was not simply a physical event, it was a spiritual statement. The God who supposedly ruled the site could not defend his own sanctuary, and Boniface immediately redirected the moment toward Christ. Rather than merely destroying the oak, he used the wood to build a church dedicated to St. Peter. That symbol is powerful. What once represented pagan worship was transformed into a place devoted to the worship of Christ. Now, Boniface was not engaging in random provocation. He genuinely believed people were trapped in fear and spiritual deception. In his mind, the gospel liberated people from bondage to hostile spiritual powers. That perspective runs throughout Scripture. When the prophets confront idols in the Old Testament, the issue is never merely cultural preference. The biblical worldview consistently portrays idolatry as spiritually dangerous because worship shapes allegiance. Human beings become like what they worship. Boniface believed paganism distorted humanity because it aligned people with rebellious powers rather than the living God. And this is important. Boniface did not merely tear things down, he built. After dramatic confrontations came the slower work of discipleship. Boniface established churches. He trained clergy. He organized communities and taught converts the Christian faith. He understood that if paganism was going to lose its hold over a people, Christian formation had to replace it. Otherwise, the old beliefs would simply return beneath Christian language. That concern consumed much of Boniface's ministry. Many areas had only partial exposure to Christianity. In some places, Christian vocabulary existed alongside pagan practices. Priests lacked theological training. Folk superstitions blended into church life. Boniface recognized that spiritual warfare was not only about dramatic moments like Thor's oak, it was also about truth. False ideas shape civilizations. Worship shapes cultures. Spiritual allegiances eventually manifest themselves socially, politically, or morally. So Boniface worked tirelessly to build churches grounded in scripture, orthodoxy, and discipline. And the danger never disappeared. Opposition remained constant, pagan resistance lingered in many regions. Political rulers shifted alliances unpredictably, missionary work could provoke violent backlash at any moment. Still, Boniface continued. His confidence rested in the belief that Christ was already enthroned above every ruler, every nation, every spiritual power. Boniface believed the resurrection of Jesus had inaugurated the defeat of the hostile powers, even though the struggle still continued within history. That conviction made him fearless. The story of Thor's Oak survives because it represents something larger than one missionary event. It represents the collision between kingdoms, not merely Christianity as a philosophy versus paganism as mythology, but competing spiritual allegiances struggling over human worship and loyalty. Boniface believed Christ alone deserved that worship. And in our next episode, we'll explore how Boniface sought not only to confront darkness, but to establish lasting Christian structures capable of discipling entire regions for generations. Thank you for listening to Fresh Ground Theology's The Weekend Cup. Come back next time and listen as we continue to explore saints and figures from church history.